Hey, hey, hey. Welcome back. If you're receiving Social Security, SSDI, SSI, or VA benefits right now, I need you to pause the scrolling, stop whatever you're doing for a moment, and watch this video all the way through because what I'm about to share with you could genuinely change your financial situation. We're talking about a $1,330 minimum per month tied directly to the 2026 federal poverty level for every individual receiving benefits administered through Social Security. And I know that sounds big. I know it might even sound like something you've heard before. But this time there's an actual document, a real proposal, and most importantly, the timing right now makes this moment one of the most important opportunities we've had in years to push this forward. So stay with me, because later in this video, I'm going to bring my wife Corey in to read the document word for word, so you can hear every detail exactly as it was written. This one truly matters. Now, for those of you who are new here, welcome to the community. This channel exists for one purpose and one purpose only, to fight for the people who are being left behind by a system that was originally designed to protect them. I've been covering Social Security, disability benefits, veterans benefits, and financial assistance programs for years. I'm not a politician. I'm not a lobbyist. I'm simply someone who genuinely cares about what's happening to the nearly 70 million Americans who depend on these programs just to survive. And today we're talking about something that I personally drafted a letter addressed directly to the United States Congress, because I believe right now we actually have the upper hand, and I refuse to let this moment pass without taking advantage of it. Timing is everything, and right now the timing could not be more critical. Thank you for taking the time to review this critically important information that must be fully understood before the upcoming midterm elections. Did you know that nearly 40 million Americans, or roughly 11% of the population, are currently living in poverty? Approximately 9 million of those individuals are seniors aged 65 and older. In addition, nearly 15% of the entire senior population is living below the federal poverty level. Data also shows that roughly 17 million seniors are considered financially insecure. If you haven't already noticed, this particular group represents one of the largest voting blocs in the country. During this year of affordability, we strongly encourage you to consider several critical adjustments before it becomes too late. The federal poverty level for 2026 has now been set at $15,960 annually for a single individual and $21,640 annually for a household of two people. That breaks down to approximately $1,330 per month for an individual and roughly $1,803 per month for a household of two. As mentioned earlier, nearly 40 million people in America are currently living in poverty. Millions of those individuals are seniors and people with disabilities who rely on fixed income programs such as Social Security, SSDI, SSI, VA benefits, and other assistance programs. Just take a moment to imagine what would happen if all benefits were raised to at least the federal poverty level and then permanently indexed to the FPL. That single step would immediately lift more than 10 million seniors, people with disabilities, and Social Security beneficiaries out of poverty. Would you agree that this would represent a massive and immediate political victory? Everyone benefits from this outcome. Lawmakers benefit because it looks incredibly strong politically. More than 10 million people benefit by finally being lifted above the poverty line. And the economy benefits because that money would be spent directly on basic necessities and everyday living expenses. Our final thoughts and questions are the following. In this so-called year of affordability, how much longer will you allow the majority of the American people to continue struggling? You hold the power of the purse and the authority to make the necessary changes that can alter the trajectory of the United States. How much longer will seniors, people with disabilities, and Social Security beneficiaries be forced to live below the poverty level while you hold that responsibility? Thank you for your attention to this matter. Okay, so that's the document. Now let me break this down piece by piece because every single word in that letter was written intentionally. The main request is very simple. Raise all Social Security, SSDI, SSI, and VA benefits to a minimum of the 2026 federal poverty level, which equals $1,330 per month for an individual, and then permanently index those benefits to the FPL so they automatically adjust every single year. No more falling behind. No more watching the cost of living increase while benefit checks stay the same. A permanent automatic floor, that's the objective. And honestly, it's not complicated at all. That's one of the things I appreciate most about this idea. It's not some massive 500-page piece of legislation filled with confusing language. It's simple, clear, and powerful. No one receiving federal benefits should be living below the poverty line. That's it. Done. Now let me explain exactly who we're fighting for here, because these numbers represent real people and real lives. We're talking about nearly 40 million Americans, or about 11% of the entire population, who are currently living in poverty. Walk into your local grocery store and count 100 people walking through the aisles. Statistically, 11 of them are living in poverty right now. That's not a statistic you expect to see in one of the wealthiest nations on earth. Yet here we are in the United States in 2026. Out of those 40 million individuals, approximately 9 million are seniors aged 65 and older, and nearly 15% of the entire senior population is living below the federal poverty line today. On top of that, about 17 million seniors are considered financially insecure. That means they are just one medical bill, one car repair, or one unexpected emergency away from falling into poverty if they're not already there. We're also talking about individuals on SSDI who became disabled earlier in life before they had the opportunity to build a long work history. Someone who becomes seriously injured at a young age and can no longer work simply doesn't have the same earnings record as someone who worked for 40 years, and their benefit reflects that difference. In many cases, that means trying to survive on almost nothing. Then there are SSI recipients, some of the most financially vulnerable people in the entire country, whose federal maximum benefit still sits below the poverty line. That's not a safety net. That's a slow descent. Our veterans are also part of this fight. Men and women who served this country and returned home with service-connected disabilities deserve far better than what the current system often provides. This proposal includes them as well. Now here's why the timing of this proposal is so incredibly important, and I really want you to hear this. We are currently in what many lawmakers are calling the year of affordability in 2026. Politicians on both sides of the aisle are discussing the cost of living crisis. Everyday Americans, not just benefit recipients, are feeling the pressure. Groceries are more expensive. Rent is higher. Utilities cost more. Everything costs more. And that shared financial pressure creates a political opportunity that doesn't appear very often. On top of that, midterm elections are approaching, and I said this directly in the letter to Congress. The group we're talking about, the 40 million Americans living in poverty, the 70 million people on Medicare, and the tens of millions receiving Social Security, represents one of the largest voting groups in the country. Politicians need those votes. And right now we have leverage. When I say we have the upper hand at the moment, that's exactly what I mean. They want your vote. They need your vote. And the question we are asking them directly is this: how much longer will you allow seniors, people with disabilities, and Social Security beneficiaries to live in poverty under your watch? That is a question that demands an answer, especially during an election cycle. Now I know what some lawmakers are going to say. They're going to ask, who is going to pay for it? Let's address that directly. They always find money. The federal government finds money for countless spending programs every single year. Right now, the United States runs a national deficit of roughly $1.8 trillion, meaning the government spends about $1.8 trillion more than it collects annually. So when funding appears for other priorities, but suddenly disappears when it comes to lifting seniors out of poverty, that argument simply doesn't hold up. But here's the deeper economic argument that lawmakers really need to understand. Who actually powers the economy? It's not only the top 10% of earners. It's the consumer. It's everyday Americans buying groceries, paying rent, covering utilities, and purchasing medication. When money goes into the hands of the bottom 90% of earners, the people who are stretched the most financially, they spend it immediately. That money flows right back into the local economy. Businesses generate revenue. Companies hire workers. Businesses expand. The economy grows. Right now, the top 10% of income earners account for a huge portion of consumer spending. If they decide to pull back, which they can afford to do, the economy slows down very quickly. But the people we're discussing in this letter, if they receive $1,330 per month guaranteed, they're not putting that money into an investment account. They're buying groceries. They're paying electric bills. They're filling prescriptions. That money moves through the economy, and lifting people out of poverty becomes an economic victory for everyone. Here's the encouraging news. The 2026 federal poverty level has already been officially updated to $15,960 per year for an individual, which equals $1,330 per month. That number already exists. It's official. It's the government's own definition of what it takes to avoid poverty. All we're asking is that they apply that same standard to the people who rely on these benefits the most. Right now, the political environment is actually favorable. The affordability conversation is happening everywhere, inside Congress, across news media, and around kitchen tables across the country. The groundwork is already there. What we need now is for the voices of 40 million people to become loud enough that lawmakers cannot ignore them. And this letter is just one piece of that effort. So here's what I need from you. Contact your representatives. Call your senator. Reach out to your House representative. Tell them you support raising Social Security, SSDI, SSI, and VA benefits to at least the federal poverty level. Tell them you support permanently indexing those benefits to the FPL. It takes about 10 minutes, but it matters far more than most people realize, especially during an election year. Share this video with every senior, every person with disabilities, every veteran, and every family member living on fixed income benefits. The more people who see this message, the louder it becomes. We need 40 million voices, and that begins with you sharing this information. Stay informed as well. Things are moving quickly. Subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell because I'll continue covering every update related to this proposal as it develops so you don't miss anything. I want to close with this because I truly mean it. I wrote that letter because I'm tired of watching people in this community struggle quietly. Seniors who worked their entire lives. People with disabilities who never chose their circumstances. Veterans who sacrificed everything. People who followed the rules and still ended up living below the poverty line because the system simply hasn't kept up with reality. $1,330 a month is not a luxury. It's the government's own definition of the bare minimum required to avoid poverty. And we're simply asking them to honor that number. The timing is right. Political pressure is growing. The affordability conversation is everywhere. And if enough of us speak up, if enough people call, write, share, and make their voices heard before those midterm elections, I truly believe change is possible. So if you're new here, make sure to subscribe. Leave a comment below and tell me what you think about this letter. Tell me where you live and how these benefit levels affect your everyday life. Your story matters, and this community deserves to hear it. I'm going to keep doing everything I can to advocate for every single person here. You deserve better, and we won't stop pushing until you receive it. I'll see you in the next video.